All right, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about my thoughts on the war in Gaza, looming constitutional crisis, and who is Elon Musk hiring. So let's get into it. So this week we had President Trump talking about the hostage releases, and I think for a lot of us it was a moment of finally someone is talking some sense. So let's listen to Trump's words.
And they probably feel that and I think Hamas is looking at that and saying, well, it's not going to get much better than that because they probably send out their best as a representative, and they've got more to send out, and they probably feel that they can't do that because it's not going to make them look very good.
Is the ceasefire over? Does it delay that, sir? Should the ceasefire then be off?
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that because that's Israel's decision. But as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be.
So that was Trump saying, "Let all hell break out," and now we're all happy to hear that finally a world leader is saying something that's so obvious that all the hostages should be returned, and there should be no reason why they all aren't home. But I think what Trump did here has the potential to be dangerous, because Trump is setting up Israel to not be able to continue the ceasefire. Let me explain. During the Obama presidency, Dennis Ross, one of his chief advisors, spoke about how Obama had basically torpedoed negotiations between Abbas and Netanyahu because Obama insisted that there should be a settlement freeze as a precondition for negotiation. And this was something Abbas had never asked for. Abbas never made that precondition. And Abbas said, so now I can't be less pro-Palestinian than Obama, so I have to insist that too. And I think in a similar way, this is what Trump has kind of pushed Israel into a corner. Because if Trump is saying that if all the hostages aren't released, all hell breaks loose. So think what that means in Israel. What, is Trump more pro-Israel than Israel? And secondly, there was a lot of pressure put on the right-wing parts of the coalition to agree to the ceasefire. And the argument was basically Trump really wants this, and the Americans are really pressuring us. But if Trump is saying, well, it's appropriate for them to give it up, so that pressure falls away. And who knows? So I'm not saying that the right thing is to end the ceasefire. I'm not saying the right thing is to continue the ceasefire. But what I'm saying is that when world leaders speak like this, off the cuff, it's something we really like about Trump, but he is the president, and there should be some caution there. I want to discuss Trump's Gaza plan. I don't think it's a serious proposal. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think America taking over Gaza is a good idea. I don't understand how you would drive out 2 million Palestinians from there. I think, there's an idea in psychology called anchoring bias. And I think for the longest time, the Palestinian Israeli conflict has been stuck in that anchor bias of the two-state solution, which is clearly not something that has worked. Otherwise, it would have happened already. If Trump means to unanchor the discussion from the two-state solution with this rhetoric, which is something he clearly does with tariffs, maybe that's a good idea. But the idea that the U.S. military should get involved in Gaza is a terrible idea. We saw that debacle, that floating pier that went nowhere. That was done by our military. We're not good at building countries. We saw that in Afghanistan and Iraq. We do not want boots on the ground. The only result of that, and then we lose American support because their soldiers are dying. So it's a terrible idea. Okay, and I want to just discuss what I think Hamas's incentives are over here. So they've now said that they're planning on releasing 3 hostages, even though they said they wouldn't. They're clearly responding to Trump. So in that way, it's good. But I think that in the long run, Hamas's incentive is to stretch this out as long as possible, because as long as they remain, the chance of them being removed from power grows slimmer. And Israel is now in a very difficult position because so many people have moved back to northern Gaza that to continue the war now would be extremely costly. So this is a difficult position they find themselves in, and we'll see how it plays itself out. But I don't see the ceasefire holding, and I really hope Trump does not send forces to Gaza. All right. So it appears we are on the path to a constitutional crisis, at least according to the parrots in the legacy media.
Constitutional crisis just weeks into Trump's second term.
The stage is set for a constitutional crisis.
Could this signal the start of a constitutional crisis?
Legal experts say our country could be headed toward a constitutional crisis.
They're calling this a constitutional crisis.
This is a constitutional crisis.
I am unapologetic and suggest.
So are we in a constitutional crisis? That is an important question. It is also so amazing that everybody in the legacy media comes to the exact same conclusion, even though they're operating separately. So that's how you know that their position is extremely well thought out and valid. But let's deal with the essential question over here. So the argument goes something like this. Congress has the power of the purse. So they allocate spending, and the president is supposed to carry that out. So at first glance, Trump just willy-nilly cutting spending here and there with the help of Elon would appear to be unconstitutional. But that's where it gets interesting. You see, does anyone believe that there was a line item somewhere in the federal budget that the United States, USAID, will fund a trance opera in Serbia? Does anyone think, I don't know the exact countries, but does anyone think it says somewhere, line item, we are funding a LGBTQ documentary in Ireland? But if there's no line item like that, how is any administration able to spend money on these things? Congress has completely neglected to do its duty and delegated its authority to federal agencies. It doesn't say, here's money to do this and this and that. It says, here's money, go fulfill your mission. And then those bloated bureaucratic agencies then set their own rules and spending. And that's how you got to the place where we are today. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the real constitutional crisis. Because it is unconscionable that our government is spending billions of dollars and nobody knows about the spending. Just bureaucrats at federal agencies. And the Republicans like, well, we could have seen this coming. We had no idea. USAID was established under Kennedy. It's been through Republican administrations, since through Democrat administrations. They all benefit from the crazy spending. And the way to fix it is that Congress, these overpaid and underworked people, just have to start coming and doing their job. They just have to start voting and reading bills. And I know that sounds like a lot, members of Congress, but if you don't want to do it anymore, unlike other federal workers, you get fired automatically at the end of your term. So you don't even have to rerun. And you could also resign today. And what the American people should demand is that Congress just does its job. We all do our jobs. We all work in the private sector. We actually get work done. And we should demand the same from our leaders and our remedies at the ballot box. And we should hold politicians accountable. A lot of the corporate media has been taking issue with some of Elon Musk's hiring choices for DOGE. Let's take a listen.
We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls, who work for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big Balls online. Big Balls here that Katie's talking about.
A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer wizards.
So the argument here is that this fellow, who obviously played a lot of sports in high school, otherwise I understand the nickname, this fellow is too young and inexperienced to have a serious job, which is strange because I've never seen progressives have a problem with youth and inexperience. And let's just highlight some fun examples of that. This is Bill Clinton talking to the now defunct founder of Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes, and just blown away by how young she was when she started this amazing company. Let's take a listen.
Founded this company 12 years ago, right? Yeah. Tell them how old you were.
I was 19.
So Bill Clinton had no way of knowing at the time that she was going to be a complete fraud. Bill Clinton is, of course, a fantastic judge of character, but they don't seem to have a problem with young people. And remember Saturday when AOC joined Congress, they love young people. Now, maybe you'll say those people aren't working directly for government. So do you remember this fantastic character from the Biden administration?
Official Sam Brinton.
The then famous non-binary nuclear waste expert Sam Brinton arrested, accused of stealing suitcases from baggage carousels in Minneapolis and Las Vegas.
I Google everything and I saw my clothes, my jewelries, some of my jewelries, my blouses. And the collection is with the same prints.
Shocking side-by-side images show what Asha thinks are her missing clothes and jewelry on Sam. A missing.
We can, debate about who wore it best over there. But so Democrats have never had a problem with young people working in government. So what are they so worried about now? Here's Elizabeth Warren making her case.
Now at the mercy of Elon Musk. Elon just grabbed the controls of our whole payment system, demanding the power to turn it on for his friends or turn it off for anyone he doesn't like. Now
So basically, Senator Warren's affectionately known as Pocahontas concern is that any of Trump and Elon's friends can look at federal data. Do you mean, when you say friends, do you mean people that the president has hired and those people they have hired? Did you ever start yelling about how 20-year-olds like Edward Snowden at the NSA can search anything on Facebook, can search through our text messages? There's no problem over here that Democrats have with young people having access to sensitive data. Our government leaks our data all the time. Every few months there's another leak. They don't care about your data. So what are they really concerned about? Clearly they're concerned about this crazy grift being exposed. But there's something else that they're panicking about. And let's go to CNN to find out.
That is pretty incredible to compare those two. So break this down then. Why, do you have any idea why more Americans are approving of his job, of the way he's doing his job this time around?
Yeah, of course, that election, he won the 2024 election. But when you went into his first term, there were a lot of folks who simply put, did not think that Donald Trump was doing what he promised. Back in April of 2017, it was just 46%. Compare that to 70% so far. So a big reason why Donald Trump is significantly more popular now than he was at this point in his first term is because, simply put, the American people believe he is fulfilling his campaign.
So there you have it from CNN. The great crime that Trump is committing is doing his job and keeping his campaign promises. And politicians are furious about this because, God forbid, Trump keeps some of his campaign promises, then nobody has to keep theirs. Because if Trump keeps some of his campaign promises, then they may have to keep theirs. And that would just destroy their whole industry. God forbid they have to start working for the American people. And the Trump administration is just working way too fast for them to keep up. And that's because the Trump administration has...
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big balls.
Big Balls, who work for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big balls online, big balls here that Katie's talking about.
A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer whizzes, the aforementioned Big Balls.
Because who among us doesn't feel better about big balls in charge of American air traffic control?
All right, that'll do it for today, guys. See you back next week.